Welcome back to News and Views right here on Salam Media. The time is 18 minutes past 9, and this hour of News and Views is proudly sponsored by Africa Muslims Agency. Africa Muslims Agency, a beacon of hope to communities for over 35 years in Africa and beyond. With that being said, this weekend marks an important milestone for South Africa's political landscape as the African National Congress, the ANC, celebrates its 113th birthday. But as the party gathers in Cape Town for their traditional January 8th statement, is clear this is not just a celebration. It's also a big moment of reckoning for the ANC. They were once a dominant force in South Africa. Many believe they still are, but they find themselves at a crossroads. Fragmented coalitions, growing political diversity, and diminishing voter trust have left the party grappling with its identity and future. President Cyril Ramaphosa's address at Khayelitsha Stadium on Saturday could be pivotal, not only for how the ANC approaches 2025's local elections, but for the very survival of the party as South Africa's political anchor. And to help us unpack these challenges and the broader significance of the ANC's 113th anniversary, we are joined by Tessa Dooms, who's going to be giving us insight and to just unpack, what we can expect. Tessa is a political analyst, a sociologist, and also a director at the Rivonia Circle. Tessa, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I think first and foremost, the ANC turning 113 this year almost feels like a celebration that is a bit more subdued than in previous decades. What do you think this anniversary says about where the ANC stands in South African politics today, and also maybe reflecting a bit back on the previous elections?
Sure. I mean, the ANC comes out of the 2024 election definitely a shadow of itself. A party that has fallen almost 20% in one electoral cycle shouldn't come out feeling triumphant. But I think the ANC has not actually taken enough time to take stock of what this electoral loss has meant, why it's happened, and find themselves a bit flat-footed. And I think there's a number of different reasons for this. Number one, they truly did not anticipate the loss, and they didn't think it would be real, especially such a huge jump. I think the ANC thought the loss might be just below 50, but I don't think they anticipated getting to effectively what was 39%, not even 40%. And I just think it was a shock to their system. The second is that a big contributing factor to their inability to really reckon with this moment is the MK party. And the MK party gives this existential threat to the ANC that they're not sure that even their members that are still within the rank and file of the ANC, they can't be sure that those members are loyal because they've now seen this big fracture. And it's been different from other past fractures with COPE and the EFF. Because you've seen Jacob Zuma saying that he is still an ANC member up until as late as yesterday, still claiming that he wants to be reinstated. And so the MK narrative is one of MK members still being able to claim ANC membership. And that gives the ANC cause for nervousness about whether they can trust each other within their ranks. But then also the DNU have given them a false sense that they have come out of this as victors, even though they lost. And I think that has meant that they have been so busy navigating this new political reality that we haven't actually heard the ANC properly reflect on themselves and their loss. And that's why the January 8th statement is going to be so important. To hear from the ANC, have they actually sat down and can they be honest about why they went from 57% to effectively 39% in one electoral cycle? Can they take responsibility? The ANC has been able to defer responsibility for their losses and say things very casually like, we take collective responsibility, but we are all in it for renewal. They've been talking about renewal for over 10 years. It has landed them in this position. Can the ANC be honest? Can they be brutal? And can they show us that there's an inspiring sense of vision that they can come up with? I'm not sure they can at this point, but the January 8th statement is a litmus test.
And I think you make quite a good point there. Just taking stock and reflecting on some of the reasons why they find themselves where they are. And traditionally, the January 8th address would be one where the president at the time, which in this case is President Cyril Ramaphosa, would touch on the party's achievements and its vision moving forward. In your opinion, what should he be focusing on this time around? Because there isn't a lot to celebrate. What should be some of the key elements in the January 8th statement that he needs to touch on that could maybe inspire a bit of confidence in the ANC to say, even though the ship is a bit rocky, things are not what we want them to be, but we have a plan and a vision to take us forward and to make sure that the ANC doesn't suffer the fate of a lot of revolutionary or liberation movements across the continent, and maybe closer to home, the SADC region, where we've seen in the previous elections where most of them have been cast away.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you what I think they should say, but I'll first start with what I think they will say. And I think that this is going to be a GNU January 8th statement, that the ANC is going to laud their greatest achievement, being that even though they got below 50%, they did not fight against the electoral result. And I think they must be congratulated for that. I think it's important that they were able to concede that defeat. And then they're going to take a lot of credit for having put together a 10-party coalition and this GNU. And for me, that would be the mistake. The mistake would be a focus on the GNU and this idea that the GNU is some kind of victory for South Africa, because the victory in terms of being able to concede defeat, I think is different from the one that says we've now put together this coalition of 10 parties that are vastly different, that still don't have a unified program of action, and that really are being held together so tenuously that just a sneeze from Helen Zille makes everybody think it might collapse tomorrow. We have a very unstable set of circumstances, in fact, with the GNU, but the ANC purports that the GNU is about stability. But really, it is such a fragile relationship because there's nothing that anchors this government. There's nothing that brings this government together. We're still sitting with a statement of intent that was written in a hurry during a negotiation period of 14 days. And we don't, from that, have a government that has come together, a cabinet that's come together with a bona fide plan of action. And so what the ANC should be talking about is two things. One is they should be talking about the state of the party. This is an opportunity for them to really say, what is the state of the party and its role in the body politic of South Africa? What has it done to influence the kind of bad politics we have seen in the country? Because the country is in a state of bad politics. We are in a politics of strong men. The ANC that has the strong tradition of being a people's party, a Congress party, has become about individuals in the last 15 years. It's become about personality politics, and that has affected and infected the rest of our political landscape. It has detached itself from ground politics and organizing in communities. It mobilizes for stadiums and rallies, not even as big this year. And we become mobilizing politics, and then patronage politics. And the role of money in politics is also on the shoulders of the ANC. And so I'd like them to talk about the politics of the party and the way that that has affected and infected the South African landscape and what they are going to do to change that. Renewal is not enough. They're going to have to be pivotal and pivoting in different directions. And then the second thing is about whether they actually have a plan to lead a government in a different direction in a substantive way. And I think those are the two conversations they should be having, but I fear that they're going to sit on a very awkward celebratory note about how a GNU is stabilized the country.
And you touched on something which is quite interesting. The fact that, this January 8th statement will be presented at the Khayelitsha Stadium, which holds a capacity of 22,000, if I'm not mistaken. It has raised a lot of questions about, symbolism. The ANC claims, they're trying to connect with grassroots supporters, go to where the voters of the ANC are. But what do you make of it? Traditionally, the ANC wouldn't host such a big celebration at a 22,000 seater stadium. Is it a reflection of the times, if I can put it that way?
I mean, this is a very logistical thing that's going on here. Number one, the ANC just comes off an election, and so its resources are depleted. It is
Mm,
sitting with very few resources, and that's why it's choosing a smaller celebration. Funding, political funding is just in a dry spell at the moment because there isn't an election that is coming up. The second reason is because they've gone to the Western Cape and they dare not embarrass themselves trying to fill that Greenpoint Stadium in the Western Cape, given the fact that about 2 years ago, the ANC only had three branches that were in good standing in the Western Cape, in Cape Town itself, actually. So they know that they can't just through mobilization. But the third thing goes back to the point I was raising about money and patronage, that a lot of how our politics has been set up because of the ANC and the way that it has conducted itself has been about filling stadiums. And filling stadiums is a PR exercise. It's not necessarily about genuine members. It's also about buses and t-shirts and a transactional politics so that people can be propped in a stadium. And the
mm,
ANC can't afford it. They can't get the genuine support. If we think about just this weekend, thousands of people in Cape Town got themselves to some ostrich farm to watch a DJ. They paid for themselves to get there. They paid for themselves to go home. They put in the effort. No political party is able to do what entertainers are able to do in this country and actually motivate people to, on their own terms, show up for them en masse. And I think the ANC is starting to reckon with that fact that it cannot get just organic energy and support, and it's not the only political party. I can't think of a single political party who could say, we're going to put in minimal resources because we know the people will show up for us on their own terms and they will fill these stadiums because they believe in us. And I think it's a signal to all political parties that they need to start getting serious about not just mobilizing for optics, but organizing for genuine support and genuine bases. And the ANC knows right now its genuine bases in the Western Cape are near zero.
mm, mm. You touched a bit on the GNU, and at the heart of the GNU is obviously, the marriage between the ANC and the DA, essentially. The debate of the ANC working with the DA versus, progressive forces, parties like the MK and the EFF, has been intensifying and brewing within the party itself. How do you see this internal struggle shaping the ANC's future alliances and also its identity as a party?
I think the decision to go with the DA over particularly MK has got nothing to do with ideology. It's got nothing to do with alignment. It's got nothing to do with progressiveness. It's got everything to do with the ANC's self preservation. Because in the MK and the EFF, they see competitors to their base. They see competitors to the kinds of voters that they want to attract. And so they have gone with the DA, who they know is drawing from different voting pools than they are. And that is a safer bet while they don't know what's happening internally in the party. They don't have confidence that they could sit around the table and govern with the MK without reputational damage, with their supporters saying, well, we might as well vote for the MK then if it's all the same. And with the infiltration issues that I think they're very, very worried about. And so I think they needed to make a strategic choice about what they thought would be harmful for the party and wasn't a governance decision. On the other hand of it, you did have a lot of pressure that was coming for the DA to be part of this. But I think that the ANC gave themselves an out for that, and that's why they went with 10 parties, because they
Mm,
want to be able to say that the DA could walk away at any time and they're not going to be beholden to them. And I think that was probably politically their smartest strategy, to make sure that they would have the numbers whether the DA was in or out. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think this was as governance strategic or ideologically strategic as people think. I think it was political strategy about what it is that they can say to their voters with confidence, and how it is that they can make sure that they're not beholden to the DA in order for a government to form.
mm, mm. I want to focus on President Cyril Ramaphosa's leadership, his leadership within the ANC itself, because a lot of these watershed and milestone moments have happened under his watch. He's when he came in, he was touted and seen as this unifying figure within the ANC. But he also faced a lot of criticism, or is even currently facing a lot of criticism for not being decisive enough in addressing internal conflicts within the organization. What can we make of his turn as president of the ANC, and what role do you think his leadership will play in determining the ANC's future?
President Cyril Ramaphosa is presiding over the weakest ANC that the ANC has ever been, and I include the pre-94 ANC. He's presiding over the weakest version of the ANC. And I say this because in any other country in the world, a party leader that presided over an almost 20% loss would have resigned as party leader, knowing that he failed. But he can't do that in an ANC that don't even feel like they can trust their own deputy to be the next and they could all rally behind. They don't trust their own depth. They don't trust their bench strength. They don't trust their leaders. And so they are stuck with a leader who's presiding over losses because the ANC's strength has been diminished as a whole, as a collective. And that's why I said earlier, one of the ANC's greatest virtues historically is being a Congress movement with depth and range. And I think right now he has presided over an ANC that doesn't trust itself to have depth or have range. A party with over 70,000 members should not be asking themselves who would lead next. Right now, we have the president of Canada who has stepped down and is saying that he's waiting for his party to go through an internal process and find a new leader because he feels that his time is gone. We saw the same thing happen in New Zealand. Jacinda Ardern, when she realized that she is no longer the leader that her party needs, was able to step aside. We're seeing it in Germany play out at the moment where they'll be able to go to fresh elections. Because when a party leader realizes that he does not have the support of either the party or the party doesn't have the support of the people to give space for new leadership to emerge. The fact that the ANC under Cyril Ramaphosa can't do that is an indictment on his leadership and his inability to bring in a new, fresh crop of leaders that can be trusted with the organization and with the country.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time, Tessa. Thank you so much for giving us your time and for your expert analysis on the ANC's 113th anniversary. I'm sure we'll be chatting in the not so distant future just to dissect what President Cyril Ramaphosa had to say in the January 8th statement. But yeah, really, really enjoyed the conversation. Appreciate it.
Sure.
That was Tessa Dooms, political analyst and director at the Rivonia Circle. So yeah, interesting times for the African National Congress. They're celebrating the 113 years, and I think it's at a time where a lot of us couldn't imagine seeing the ANC where it is right now. And I think Tessa makes quite a good point that even when you look at the structures of the ANC now, their top leadership, it almost feels empty. It almost feels like there's no depth. Where do we go after Ramaphosa? If you are within the ANC? Are there leaders of such stature within the organization that are trusted, that are, leaders in every sense of the word, and that have gone through the ranks of the ANC that, a lot of us knew and loved? Who else after Cyril Ramaphosa? Because if they had depth, I think they would have called for his resignation. They would have found someone who's capable, to be at the helm of a party, to truly renew and rejuvenate the party, which has seen decline after decline in almost every aspect. Interesting times ahead. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues.